Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is Edna White, and welcome to Keeping It Real on Purpose. I am your host for today's show. I am joined today by Susan Rosenstein. She has written a beautiful book, which I am excited to talk about 50 Ways to Celebrate Life After 50. So I know that, I want to introduce her, but I'm so excited because it's full of confetti, which I really need to have all the time. And, audience, you guys know that I love fun, fun, fun. This book is fun. And it talks about getting unstuck that most of us feel after 50. Welcome to the show today, Susie.
Thank you so much, Edna. I'm really happy to be here.
I'm glad to be here. You also are a fellow podcaster, and we were talking pre-show about how it just blossoms into something else. So
I've
tell
been
us that
doing it.
experience.
Yeah,
Yeah, tell
I've
us
been
that
doing the
experience.
podcast thing for a while, and it's so funny because it sounds like neither of us ever imagined we'd be doing something like this,
Wow.
especially technology based.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I go into the podcast room because I work. I was introduced to a podcast room in the neighborhood, and it's like, oh, I want you to come down because you're doing so well with your podcast. And so I went down, so I got this head gear on, and I'm learning how to move the buttons and all of that. The people clapping. You got the music on the side, and I'm like, who would have known at my age that I would have been doing this? But it's so exciting. It keeps you young, I would say.
Yeah, trying new things, learning new things. Absolutely.
Yes, yes. So tell us how you show up in the world besides being an author and besides being a podcaster.
Well, I am a glasses half full kind of gal.
Yeah. Okay.
That's how I show up. And like most of us, I've had my share of trauma. I've had my share of bad, hard stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
in fact, it did guide it guided the beginning of the book.
Yeah.
And it really shaped my personality and my experience. And I don't know, I show up positive, silly, funny.
Love it.
My kids don't think I'm
Don't worry, my kids don't think that either. I'll be dancing around and stuff, and I know you do, probably do too. Dancing around, they be looking at, oh, that's my mother. Don't even think. I know that. Because we enjoy life, and I can tell from you, you
That's
enjoy that
it.
as well.
That's it. Yeah. So I'm upbeat and I can't help myself. Uh and life is challenging and
Yes,
overall,
yes,
I that's how I show up. I
yeah.
hope that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes a whole lot of sense, and I know, audience, for those who are over the 50s, we know it makes sense. So, one of the things that you ask in the book, that I always do, is why it's important to celebrate your age. I always do that. Daughters always says to me, "Mom, you don't always have to have a party. You don't always have to have." Yes, I do, girl. Yes, I do. So tell us why it's important to celebrate age.
Well, Edna, what's the alternative? Like really think about it,
Death,
right?
death.
That's right. And what's our biggest fear? That we're going to die
Yeah,
too soon.
without doing things we wanted to do.
Yeah, we're going to have fear of regrets and we're going to die
Hmm.
too soon. So, what happened to me, and I mentioned it briefly without going into details, is I've outlived both my parents. And
Oh
so,
wow.
my mother died when I was 5. My father passed when he was 40. I was 12. He was 41. My
Hmm.
mother was 32. So, I turned 60 this year. They did not have the privilege to age.
Yeah.
I do.
Right.
So, if you are alive, it's worth celebrating
Yeah.
because you still have opportunity. There's still possibility. There's still things that you can dream about and move forward and experience and everything else. So I think it's like it sounds so ridiculous to talk about something so basic, but when we
Yeah.
get all caught in all of the negative thinking about age that I'm too old, it's too late. What how could I even think that way? Who do I think I am? Like all that kind of
Right.
negative stuff. We're losing the forest through the trees or whatever that expression is.
Yeah.
The big picture is we're alive, that age is worth celebrating because that
Yeah.
means we're alive. And
Yeah.
so many people did not have that privilege. So I really do believe it's a gift, even though it sounds a bit basic and dramatic. It really is what we're talking about. Think about,
Right.
why are you afraid? Why are you negative about aging?
Right.
I
Right.
mean, not you, but so many of
Yeah.
us. And
No. Yes.
still
Absolutely. Absolutely.
the sneaky negative thoughts pop up even for people like us who work with this stuff all the time. We all have it, but
Sure.
it's just, I think it's an important
Sure.
reminder that we have the gift to be alive.
Oh, that's great. I like that you said we have the gift, the privilege to age.
Yeah.
That just pricked my heart. It really did. I was like, yeah, I can remember my sister turned 50. Well, she cried at 40. And I think she cried at 30.
Oh my God.
So so she's like, I'm 50. And I was like, what are you crying for? Like, I said, do you, and I start to run down her friends that passed away prior
Mm,
to that. And she goes,
mm,
well, you gave me a shock. But that really sticks with me, even at the age of, like, if you're older, even when you're older. I had a friend that didn't want to live to be 76. She said that. Like, she said, I don't want to die old. I was like, ooh, and so you're going to die young? And it disturbed me. And she died young. She died young.
oh,
And we have to be very, very careful. Like, yes, we do talk about these things, but I think these are things that we should be talking about because they're taken for granted, right?
definitely. I remember my mom used to say something like, my stepmother. She used to say, she had a feeling that one of my sisters was going to have a baby and that she would be a grandmother at 50. And that freaked
Ooh,
her out. She used to always say, I do not want to be a grandmother at 50. And now that I'm 60 and I'm thinking,
right.
wow, you're a grandmother at 50. Or was it 50? I don't even remember. 50, 51, 52. She was young. And
Yeah,
and it's funny when I think about it, it's like, yeah, she was young, but not everybody thinks that 50, 52 is young. So it's just a reminder that, age
yeah,
really is just a number, and it's how we
it
interpret it,
is.
what we make it mean. So
Yeah,
she thought being a grandmother meant she was old. But there's
yeah,
so many ways to look at being a grandmother and having
yeah.
mobility and youthfulness
Yes, exactly,
to
exactly.
enjoy and more time to enjoy the
There you
relationship and
go.
all those things. But that really stands out to me,
Yeah,
at the way she must have been thinking about aging.
yeah. And I think all of us, at some point, have this misnomer about age. All of us do. Um, I can remember people saying to me, "Oh, you look great for your age." I said, "Well, what is it supposed to look like?"
Exactly.
And they were like, I don't know. I was like, exactly. So what are you talking about? But it's really important to get rid of those misnomers. I think when we live, we've had trauma, we experienced that. I think we grab hold of, like you said, celebration. I love fun. You're a celebration person. I love fun things. So we grab onto that because we didn't have it. We're so busy, or life was busy, kind of messing us up a little bit, that we didn't have those things. So when we do get them, we celebration is great. I love it, love it, love it, and fun is great. How can teach my audience, to kind of get rid of that mindset, because it is about mindset around age that makes us cry, make us say these things like, I don't want grandchildren at 50, makes us say those things. How can we start to step out of that?
Well, the first thing to do is just appreciate that you need to be more aware of what it is that you're thinking. There
Okay.
has to be more awareness. And so I use something called the fun method. That's the method that
Okay.
I came out of my head,
Oh,
because
love
I,
it.
and it's, believe me when I say fun, and I know you're the same way, even though we just met, that it doesn't mean that we're not appreciating negative emotion and the hard
Right.
times of life.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's part of life too.
Yeah. Yeah.
But there is also a possibility to have fun. So what fun stands for with my methodology is
Yeah.
this
Mm-hmm.
idea that first we have to find our thoughts. So many of us
Right.
don't even know what we're thinking. We don't even know it.
Right.
Like, it's too late. You may not even know that you think it's too late,
Yeah.
or that the best, like we all think, oh yes, the best is yet to come.
Mm-hmm.
Do we really believe that? Or do we really think,
Yeah.
oh no,
Right.
it's a
Do we?
downhill slide now to the finish line. The best is over. We'll buy the pillow, we'll put the magnet on the fridge,
Yeah.
but do we
Yeah.
really, really believe it? I don't know. So
Yeah.
you have to start to get curious about what you're thinking. And if you can't, if you can't find a thought, because that can be kind of challenging sometimes if you're very,
Yeah.
very committed to believing that way, you can notice how you feel.
Hmm.
And if you're feeling resistant or sad or just down, I felt off. That's how I described it. I didn't feel content.
Right.
You're thinking something that's creating
Right.
that
Me
emotional
too.
state for you. So sometimes you have to do a little sneak attack on
Right.
your feelings and then be curious. Oh, I wonder what I'm thinking that's creating it. So you need to
Hmm.
own responsibility for what is going on to find these thoughts. So you find your thoughts and then you have to understand what you want,
Oh, that's good.
right? So you stands for understand what you want. And
Right.
again, so many of us, I mean, I've got client, I don't know what I want. That's what I was saying. I was stuck for 5 years, 45 to 50. I don't know what I want. I was asking my friends, what should I do?
Girl, you ain't
What
the
do I
only
want?
one.
What do I want? What thinking somebody older and wiser can tell me what I
Yeah.
want, right? So you need to really
Yeah.
understand what you want. And that comes from finding your thoughts. So you have to kind of, I describe it as catch. You have to catch what you're thinking. Just be
Yeah.
more ready to look for
Yeah.
thoughts and
Hmm.
catch. It's like if you have a glimpse of something that you want, I've got
Yeah. Right
strategies and
away.
tricks and everything, but
Yeah.
be curious about it. And then the N stands for nurture your commitment to yourself.
Oh,
So
that's good.
what that means is you need to find your thoughts, understand what you want, and then commit that it's okay to pursue them.
That's good.
So
That's
plan
good.
in advance, commit to that plan. And, that's very
Hmm.
challenging for so many of us too, because it means you kind of have to put yourself first.
Oh yeah.
And
Oh yeah.
we're not comfortable doing that.
No, we're not.
So
We're
that's
not.
my high level
Love
strategy of
it.
what it takes to move forward. Find your
Yeah.
thoughts, understand what you want, nurture your commitment to yourself.
Great. All right, audience, you heard that. Find your thoughts, understand what you want, and nurture your commitments to yourself. That means love on yourself. Tell
Yeah.
us some little things about self care.
Okay.
Now, I know when I first began the journey in that part of self care, people always telling me, get your nails done, get your, and I was like, I'm not one of those people. Like, I love pedicures and manicures, but I think it goes deeper than that. Tell us some self care avenues that we can take.
Okay. Well, when I think about self-care, it's like doing things on purpose to nurture and
Ooh,
take care of yourself,
that's
mind,
good.
body, heart, and soul. Right. So it's not
Yes.
just like you said, it's not just your nails and a massage. And
Right.
doing the basics like getting good sleep and rest and eating to fuel your body
Mm-hmm.
and you want to do all the
Oh yeah.
basics and you want to definitely do some of
Yeah.
these things that we consider treats. But I also like to think about your passions, your hobbies, travel, like the
Mm-hmm.
things, the other ways that you nurture your heart, mind, body, soul, you know?
Okay.
And so one of the
Mm-hmm.
things I'll give an example is a hobby that I had for years and years and years. I like to work with my hands. I like to create crafty things. And I had been doing these beaded wire hair accessories for years. And
Mm-hmm.
I loved it. But in order to allow yourself to spend time and money doing some of
Yeah.
these hobbies that you might have, you need to put
Mm-hmm.
yourself first. And
Yeah.
so, think of any hobby. If you like to paint, if you like to dance, if you like to garden, you have to create the space to do it. And when
Right.
we have a hobby, we do like to spend some resources. We might want to
Oh
take a
yeah.
course. We might want to, for
Right.
me, buy beads. And
Yes.
so the idea is to allow yourself to do that because you're
Mm-hmm.
worth it, because that is taking care of yourself. And also, when you get into
Yes.
doing something that you're passionate about or learning a skill related to a hobby or something like
Mm-hmm.
that, you can typically get into this really relaxed state. Sometimes you might call it
Right.
flow. You get really relaxed. And that's a good
Mm-hmm.
thing too. And but really the big trouble is putting yourself first and allowing yourself to spend resources, including time,
Right.
on
Right.
something like that.
Right. I just said this morning to my group, I said, I see so many people, they're so serious about life. Like they walk around stiff necked, they're serious, everything's serious. No laughter. If you laugh at something, it's not supposed to, you're not supposed to laugh. And I was like, that it dulled for years. And I was in religion for a long while. And they actually told us no joking. There was no joking, no laughter. And I was like, that's kind of weird considering I'm a jokester, that's kind of weird. And I remember feeling so, like you said, out of place. Like I didn't fit. I was like, this is really weird. And I decided this year, and I said I've been doing it for a long time, but more so just being so jovial and laughing, because laughter lifts the body. And like you said, we may have some bad stuff that happens in life, but it lets you see the good things, along with that, right? It
Yeah.
makes you see all of the good things. So that's what's really good about it. I want you to talk about celebrating relationships, because is that part of self care? Is that how you explain it? Celebrating the relationships?
Well, that's not the way I explain it, but it could be. It's just
Okay, all
when I
right.
separated things out, I was just like, if you consider that fueling your heart, your soul, then it absolutely is. I separated it
Right.
out in the
In
book just
relationships.
because I thought that it really stands
Gotcha.
out as something. It's something I work on with my clients, that with when it comes to
Okay.
relationships, so many of us are not intentional
Okay.
about the relationships. And so there's so much that we can
Mm-hmm.
do
Mm-hmm.
to own our part, whether it's relationships like inner circle
Right.
relationships, like parents, grandparents, siblings,
Right.
children,
Right.
partner,
Right.
or if
Right.
it's friendships, or if it's relationships, in the community. When you go to the grocery store, you always talk to somebody, or the post office. It's the same people
Mm-hmm.
there all the time. I love talking to them. They're
Right.
so nice. They ask me how I am. It's like
Mm-hmm.
sometimes that's the only person
Right.
I talk to, other than Zoom people. When we're home based, I don't get out of the house so
Yes.
much. So
Yes.
I love the
Exactly.
idea of being really intentional about relationships, and it comes up a lot with women our age,
Yes.
especially around aging parents, around children who are now young adults, and
Mm,
also around friendships. So a lot of midlife women
right.
complain that they don't have the kind of relationships that they thought they would have at this age and stage, friendships. And
Yeah.
so
Mm-hmm. True.
I think it's really interesting when even you look at a really close friend, are you
Mm-hmm.
as intentional as you could
Right.
be, or do you rely, if you're in a
Oh,
group, do you
that's good.
rely on a group? There's one person who always does the organizing,
That's good.
or there's one
That's so
person who
good.
always says, come to my home. So it's just
Yeah.
start to be more aware of how you're showing up in relationships. Are
Right.
you being
That's good.
intentional about what you're saying, what you're thinking, what you're doing, what you're initiating? Because it's definitely an area that is very easy to have regrets. So I love to celebrate by doing something
Yes.
very simple. In the book,
Yes.
there's a list of 50 ways to celebrate in each category. So
Mm-hmm.
10 or 8
Mm-hmm.
or 7,
Which is
50.
great. Yeah. It's
And then there's
great.
30 journal prompts as well. And then I tell a
Mm-hmm.
story of how I celebrated. So one of the tips, one of the ideas for how to celebrate friendships is to call instead of text. Now, come on,
Yes.
right?
I just had this conversation. Yes. I hate it. Call me. Even if you just say, hey, how you doing? Don't text me. And I hate it even more when you're a professional doing it. I hate it. I hate it.
Well, think back to how many, like when you were a kid, remember how exciting it was to get your own telephone? I had my
Sure.
own telephone in my room. I think I was 12, and it was on the wall and had a really, really long
Me
cord,
too.
like the cord.
Yep.
And it
Yep. The
was
coily
just,
one. Yep.
it was amazing to have leisurely talks with your girlfriends. And
Mm-hmm.
now on your birthday, think about what happens. If you're lucky, you get dozens and dozens. of texts on
Yeah.
Facebook
Oh
and
my
on your
God.
phone,
Yes.
but do you
Oh
get
yes.
phone calls? How many
A
people
phone
actually phone
call.
you?
I'm gonna say about five people called me. Everybody else texted me.
Right.
Five people called me, and three of which were my children.
Exactly.
Three
And
of
then
which
the
was my
next
children.
question
So
is,
yeah.
how many people do you call? And so when are you using the
Oh
phone
gosh.
and when are you using the text? And just to be more mindful of that. And why aren't you?
Yeah.
Is it that you're not making time to connect? You're not making time to have a long
Yeah.
conversation? Sometimes you need to be
Yeah.
strategic and sometimes you don't have time.
Yeah.
But are you making
Right.
time on purpose for the people you really care about?
Right. Right. And I think that is, you are correct on that. I love to talk. I will tell you, if I have an issue or a problem, I call. When I have a bestie that I'll call. Hey, I got this problem. Okay, thank you very much for that advice. Bye. She knows I'm calling for that. But we speak on a weekly basis. Hey, we'll text each other, well, good morning, whatever, during the week. But then it's like a catch up time. Hey, what are you doing today? What's going on? We're talking. And I think I love that type of connection. And when you were talking, I was thinking about how I hate people coming into my DM on LinkedIn trying to solicit something from me, and I don't know them, and it
Yeah.
irritates me.
Yeah.
But instead of you saying, "Hey, could we get a call?" or something like that, or just be present, and then like start a conversation, but they start off with a soliciting, oh, you need services. No, I don't. No, I don't. And we need to get away from that type of thing, because that DM, like you said, and that text have now taken the place of, you know connection and build and relationship building.
Yeah.
It just doesn't do. It's not suffice. you know
Right. So to
it's just not
celebrate it is
suffice.
to
We
allow
need
the
to talk to
time
people.
and relax into it. Maybe get a cup of
Yes.
coffee. Even if you can't be in person,
Yeah.
just approach it as a way to
Right.
relax, as a way to connect and lean into,
Yeah.
So I just think that's
Absolutely.
a beautiful
Totally
way to
agree.
celebrate is to make
Totally
time.
agree.
Yeah.
Totally agree. Totally agree. So, I'm at page 60 now. Celebrate your professional self. I Again, I can't tell you how many of my clients do not celebrate anything professional. They accomplish things, like, I'll just say, like, if I do five things at work, I'm celebrating. Hey, yeah, I'm like, yeah, I completed five things, but that's me. I celebrate like that. They have to wait till they do all this work. I got to work really hard to get this, and then they get this award. And then I said, now what are you going to do with it? They were like, what? I said, yeah, but what are you going to do with it? You know, when they gave me awards, I was like, do we get like gifts to go to, the Hilton, things like that, maybe some massages? They were like, no. I was like, oh, then I don't want no award. I want something I can use, and I think celebrating your professional self, we do not do it enough as women. Let me say.
Yeah, I agree. And we look for other people for acknowledgement. And of course, sometimes that's really
Yes.
important. Like if you're
Yes.
employed by somebody else and you get acknowledged with a raise,
Right.
like that kind of thing. But
Yeah.
really, there's so much you can do for yourself. And I
Yeah.
like to think about it as the way you make a professional contribution that broadens it a little bit. So it's not just
Yes.
at the job, but it might be
Yeah.
the way you mentor somebody or the way that
Yeah.
you show up as a volunteer for your kids' school. I know I used to do
Yeah.
that. I spent a lot of time, but I
Hmm.
was there in a professional capacity as
Right.
a volunteer. So I was
Right.
really bringing it,
Yeah.
it
And
was a
people don't
marketing.
realize that. That's really good, Susie. Volunteerism is a profession.
It can
It's a
be
professional
unless
part of you.
like the
Yes.
stuff I did, we made a website, we were doing marketing.
Yeah.
Like it was major stuff. So one of the tips I have in this celebrating your professional stuff, there's a lot of tips, but
Mhm.
the one that I really thought
Okay.
was what I knew that there wouldn't be a 100% agreement about it.
Uh-huh.
But it was about really thinking about who you want to be known for professional.
Mm.
Like what do you want to be known for? and
Yeah.
then make sure that that's reflected on LinkedIn. Now, I thought,
Oh, that's
like,
good.
right? You see what I mean? Like, it's
Right.
like, oh, that's a good
Yeah.
idea. Wait, I don't know that I'd be a little vulnerable, or that might be a little too
Yeah.
revealing. So I
Yeah.
remember one client I had years ago,
Uh-huh.
loved and got a ton of feedback for the way she facilitated groups. She was an
Mm.
amazing group lead, but it wasn't part of her job description. And I said,
Right.
and do you want to be
Putting
known
it.
for that? Is that something you're really proud of? And she said, yes, I get great evaluations for it. And I love
Yeah.
it. She totally got into it. And I said, is it reflected on LinkedIn? Oh, no, it's
Yeah.
not part of my job description. Well, what would that
Yeah.
look like for
No.
you to reflect it on LinkedIn?
Yeah.
You know,
That's
and
great.
so
That's
in
good.
that particular case,
That's good.
she made sure that she had a photo taken of one of the groups. But when you get creative and you start thinking about it, there's so many ways that you could have that strength of yours portrayed
Yep.
on LinkedIn. And so I know on
Absolutely.
my current LinkedIn profile, I love whales, and I put whale enthusiast.
Um,
Whales are a huge
yeah.
part of my passion. I mentioned it in the book about the passion
Mm-hmm.
section. It's something that I bring into my community. I've done a retreat that related to whales. I talk about it a
Okay.
lot because it taught me so much about my own passion and how I made time for
Mm-hmm.
care and all that. Um, so anyway, I just think that's an interesting thing to think about is who and what do you want to be known for as part of your professional
Right.
self? And do people know?
Mm-hmm.
Do people know that about you? And at the very low hanging
Yeah.
fruit, is it mentioned in any way, in any capacity on your LinkedIn
Yeah.
profile? Why
That's
or
good.
why not? Was it an
That's
oversight?
very good.
You just don't think about yourself that way. But I think that's a real
Mm-hmm.
way to celebrate. It's part of who you are. It's your authentic,
Yeah.
you're like it's you
That's
being you at a high level.
yeah, that's good. That is really, really good.
Good.
Well, what would you say for a people enthusiast? Because I love people.
Well, I
I
don't.
love them. I love talking to them. I love, learning about them, listening and feeding it back to them and building relate. I love that. I don't know what that is. I honestly don't.
Well, that you're a people person. So I just
Yeah.
wonder in your on your profile if there's any picture of you with anybody else. Are you with people?
No,
Just that
no.
little thing, right?
Yeah. No, I love people. I mean, my daughter, my best friend just was with me the other day, and she goes, "Is there anybody that you don't know?" I said, "No, there are." Then she's like, "Why do you talk to them like you know them?" I was like, "Well, I went up to the restaurant tour, and the first time I went there, and I went up to her to tell how great the meal was, right?" And so she's patting my hand. So she goes, "You know her?" I was like, "No." She's like, "What?" So yeah, I just love connecting with people. But I was like, I appreciate. I love a great meal, so I will tell you, I love food. It got to taste good. It's got to wow me. So when I go out, and when I do, I make known that it's great. But people, I gotta get that now. I know LinkedIn. I'm gonna write that down. You're giving me something new to think about.
Amazing. And
You're giving
once
me
you that's
something.
just the beginning because once you get going on it, it's going to come up
I know.
in a lot
I
of ways for you.
know. Yeah, I know. I like that. I like that. So I know that the book audience is an easy read. It'll give you some insight, some tips, but also be able to write. And I love this about this particular book. I wouldn't write in it, probably a little bit, and then erase it, and because I'll probably use it over and over again. But this is a book that you can use. Oh, I like this because you can use it over and over again. I like to check myself every 5 years, but now I'm getting older. I check myself yearly. I check myself yearly now. And this is a great book to do that. Um, Susie shows 6 different areas that you have to look at. It's important in your life to look at and celebrate that we don't celebrate. What could you give our audience now, Susie? I don't want to give away all the book because I think I almost did, but I want them to buy. I want them to buy. But what is it that you can give anyone in their 50s? Let's do that. Anyone in their 50s, some encouragement about.
So, one of the things I think that most of us really don't do enough of is trusting our path
Ooh,
and trusting ourselves. And
Yeah.
so this is something you can do all by yourself. You don't need
Hmm.
anybody's approval or permission,
Yeah.
but just
Good.
trust that even though you don't have the answer, you have the ability to find the answer, because all you need to do is take the next best step. You don't need to have your whole life sorted. You don't need to have
Hmm.
everything, tied
Hmm.
up in a pretty bow. But when you trust
Right.
yourself to know,
Yes.
because you're an older and wiser woman, you're not just older, you are older and
Yes.
wiser, that
Yes.
you know a lot about yourself, even though you
Hmm.
may not be able to articulate it, and you may not be able to say, I know exactly what I'm going to do in the next 5 years, the next 10 years, the next 20 years.
Yes.
Just to work on trusting your path and trusting your ability to figure things out is huge, because when you catch yourself saying to your friends, well, I just don't know. I have no clue. I'm so stuck. I'm
Right.
behind. I
Right.
I don't I think I'm out of time. I made mistakes. I'm
Mhm.
worried about regrets. Just all this stuff is not the same thing as having a mindset that supports thoughts like, you know what? I think I can probably figure this out. Or I'm
Right.
learning more and more about myself.
Right.
I'm learning how to be patient. I'm learning how to trust myself. I'm learning how to relate to my older kids. There's so many ways that you can just show yourself more compassion and be more curious. And I always say curiosity and compassion for the win.
Right.
So just more trust, more curiosity. Why do I think that? That's so interesting. I wonder why I'm thinking that. And can I love myself and be gentle? Like, ask yourself, if you had
Right.
a little girl in your life, a niece, your best friend's daughter, a
Hmm.
grandchild, what would you be saying to her if she had
Yeah.
doubts or negativity? Would
Yeah.
you be as hard as you are on yourself, or would you be sweet and compassionate and encouraging? And we need
Right.
more of that for ourselves.
Wonderful. Well, that is awesome that you said. And this brings us to the end of the episode of Keeping It Real on Purpose. We want to thank you, audience, for listening, and thank our guest, Susie Rosenstein, for being here today, who is a master life coach, a midlife mentor, and the host. Did I say host? Host of the Woman in the Middle podcast. She has brought today tips from her book called 50 Ways to Celebrate Life After 50. Now, I want you to go out and buy this book. I want you to be, part of the movement, and check yourself every year with the same exact book. She might just write another one. Who knows? But right now, 50 Ways to Celebrate Life After 50. Plus, we're hoping that she's going to join us in April 1st, and being part of the fabulous 40s, 50s, 60s, and beyond summit. And don't forget that date, April 1st, 2024. Okay? We're going to really, really be doing some amazing things, which I know that you'll be excited about. Thank you all for being here. Thank you, my guests, for being here. And we're going to say goodbye for now.
And I have one thing that I'm giving away for free. Do I have time to squeeze that
Go
in?
ahead.
Oh my
No,
gosh,
give it
I almost
away.
forgot,
Give
because good thing
it
I
away.
have a sticky note.
Give it away. Give it
Okay,
away.
I have something called the Get Unstuck Midlife Podcast Bundle. So it is top 12
Ooh.
episodes loaded with secrets about how to love your life again after 50. And everybody can get it. Just go to freepodcastbundle.com. Freepodcastbundle.com.
And I will have it in the comment section, both on the audio version and the video version, so you can't miss out. All right.
Thank
Thank
you.
you again for being here. Bye for now, Susie. Bye, audience.
All good?